Call the meeting of the Economic Development Committee to order and welcome our new supervisors, Cousin, Ooms, and Simmons. First on the agenda this afternoon is a report from the Workforce Development Group.
All right, well, thank you. My name is Chris Nardone. I'm the director at Columbia Green Workforce, New York. I've been here a couple times, but for those of you that don't know yet, we serve primarily low-income working people, unemployment recipients, public assistance recipients, and Social Security beneficiaries. We help people return to the workplace, get new jobs, upskill. We provide training grants and funding to people so that they can get certifications and increase their wages. We also provide a variety of services to businesses, things like labor data, recruitment and retention support, some HR support. So we work, again, primarily with people who are lower income, but we serve just about anyone in the community that's looking for a job or needs some support. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about a few of the trends that we've been seeing. I talked about that the last time I was here, and things have gotten a little bit more complicated, but pretty much more of the same. So we're seeing a very low number of people that are actually looking for jobs. The people that are coming in that are looking for jobs really just need a resume update, and the competition for these job seekers is so great that they're unemployed for maybe a day or two before they're back into the workplace. So we see a really high demand for workers, and it's allowed working people to have kind of a freedom of transition that at least I haven't seen before, where you can have, there can be almost no apprehension about leaving a job because there are better jobs out there. So the people that we are seeing are primarily coming for training rather than for looking for jobs. So earlier, at the end of last year, there was a lot of wage volatility and people were getting a lot of bonuses, and there was some hazard pay bonuses that were kind of pushing wages around. But now we're at a point where the really low, remarkably low unemployment has created a real upward pressure on wages. And we've seen wages kind of increase. There's been a 5% increase nationally in the median wage, and sectors like leisure and hospitality have seen almost 11% increases in wages, bringing average wages for that sector up to like $18 or $19 an hour, which is pretty unheard of, I think, in my experience. But this super high upward pressure, it's not really clear if it's making an impact on businesses being able to recruit. So we've seen businesses push their wages up and still not be able to bring people in because it doesn't appear that there are the people out there that are interested in work, that are unemployed, and that are engaged in the workforce to bring in. So this wage pressure really is because of competition between employers and businesses, and it's not necessarily a recruitment tool, really. It's really a competition tool between businesses. So we rather than having fresh workers coming into businesses, where businesses are kind of stealing back and forth employees, and it's also adding to the. Claire Cousins has raised her hand. Do you guys want me to stop? Is there a question?
No, you can finish. I just
okay. So this competition is hitting some sectors, small businesses in some sectors really, really hard. Service industry and hospitality have been hit pretty hard. Healthcare has been hit really hard. And places like, I think of co-work and in-flight and mental health that have kind of capped wages because of their Medicaid reimbursement or their government reimbursement rates, really just can't compete with businesses like Walmart or McDonald's or any of the big box stores or grocery stores that have a little bit more flexibility. So they've been hit especially hard. So there's that first part of having very few workers in that low income demographic, but then we have people coming in for training that are looking to train out of those hospitality and service industry positions, those low wage positions, and are training into things like CDL, LPN, skilled trades, welders, and HVAC, which has really created this vacuum at the bottom end of wages that's really, again, hitting businesses hard in the hospitality and tourism sectors, small retail and small businesses businesses that can't really just keep pushing their wages up and up and up. So unemployment is down to about 2.9%. So it appears like most people who want to work are working, and there's just not enough working people that are willing to take jobs at those bottom end wages. And it's causing real problems for businesses in our community. So there is some number of people, that 2.9% unemployment is a little bit deceiving because there is some number of people that are disengaged from the workforce that aren't counted in that number. So people like retirees or students or caregivers who've been out of the workforce for a substantial amount of time, taking care of either parents or family members or children. But the number of those people that will actually return to the workforce in these traditional wage jobs, it's not really clear how many people are going to come back. Again, the competition is not just between businesses, but businesses are also competing with 1099 employment like Instacart, Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub, which has seen a 30% increase in employees over 2020. So it's a booming industry, and people are able to make a pretty substantial amount of money with all of the freedom and flexibility that they could ever ask for working for an app like that. There's also the problem that we're competing now kind of on a global scale because remote work has allowed the talent that we have in Columbia County to really work anywhere. Our office, and it's funny that I'm kind of presenting this week because last week we had an email from a recruiter in California who has a bunch of remote jobs who had sent us an email and was asking if we had workers that would be willing to work remotely for this company in California. And then we had a second email from someone in almost the exact position who was a recruiter from Texas who was coming to us, emailing our small one-stop in our tiny county in upstate New York to try to recruit employees for corporations in California and Texas that were paying really good, pretty good wages, up to $22 an hour for a work from home, pretty much a call center operator. So the level of competition is not just between businesses, it's not just local, we're competing really on a global scale, and the talent that we have has the opportunity to work really anywhere in the country. So what our office has kind of done to try to combat this as best we can is identify those non-traditional workforce participants. We've partnered with Columbia County Reentry to work with people who are justice involved and coming out of prison. With our local ARCs, we're targeting English language learners. We're also working on engaging people who are in various steps of the immigration process to see if we can help them become employment eligible in the United States so that we can support them to get jobs to fill some of these positions in businesses, so that businesses don't have to consider the liability of taking on a worker that's not employment eligible. Mixed success, where people think of us as a government agency, so it's been difficult for us to kind of penetrate that population. But it is something I think we really, as a workforce community and as businesses, need to approach every single population, every single person, and try to get every single person we can into the workforce. We've reached out to all of our local libraries in Columbia County and have set up mobile and remote workforce offices. So we have workforce staff in our libraries so that people who have transportation as a barrier don't have to make their way all the way to the college. They can just come to their local library in their town and set up an appointment and get all the services that they would need there. But again, I think the real problem is that there's just not that many people out there left. Most of the people who are engaged in the workforce that want a job, have found a job. If somebody doesn't like the job they have, it's very easy for them to transition in a new job. The problem is not labor demand, it's really supply. So some of the biggest barriers that we're hearing from people and from businesses is housing, affordable housing and housing security. People really are struggling. Businesses are struggling to find housing for their employees. So even if you could get someone, someone with an immigration status to come here, even if you could get someone with a visa to come to Columbia County, even if you could recruit people from all over the world, there's no place for them to live here. So businesses are really struggling, even bringing in people from out of state, because there just is not housing available for those people. Another one, as always, is childcare. Columbia County, there's effectively no available childcare in Columbia County for most families. So those are the two big barriers. We've seen stories that we normally wouldn't see. We had a middle school teacher who came in who quit her job teaching and is now delivering for Instacart and making almost as much money as she was making as a middle school teacher, with none of the commitment and all of the flexibility. So I think for our office moving forward, it's really trying to target every single population. We're reaching out to people that are English language learners. Like I said, we're reaching out to people who have various immigration statuses. But at the end of the day, I think the problem is almost bigger than that, and we're reaching a point of diminishing returns where every person that we find to bring into the workforce is costing more and more resources to get, because there's just fewer and fewer people to find out there in the counties that are ready to come back to work. I think the lighter note, right? I think as time goes on, we'll see some of those disengaged people return to the workforce. But I don't know that there is enough people that have been disengaged that are not in the workforce actively to fill the jobs that we have. So I think this is potentially a pretty long-term difficulty that we're going to be having. And if we really want to develop the economy like I think we do, we're going to have to really address this workforce shortage, I think. So that's kind of my presentation. I always kind of feel like Chicken Little when I talk about this, because, but I think the sky may actually be falling, right? There's the possibility that long-term, over the next decade, real critical long-term workforce shortages could be a problem for us if we don't find some way to combat it and bring working people into the county. So that's really my 2 cents, my little presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
I'll just jump in quick. I had a couple of thoughts as you were speaking. I think that there's room for like creative outreach and like getting people engaged. I know that a lot of my friends and family and the folks that I represent, there is jobs in like fast food and hospitality, but the turnover rate is high, and that's intimidating. So there's that point that I think together we can think of creative ways to get into the community and find some incentive for people to even seek out these jobs and stay in hospitality. Also, what came to mind is access. I know that you mentioned the local library so that people don't have to travel all the way to the college. But I think that people like to be at the college. They like to be able to make that commute. So finding ways to get people there, and also expanding what trade programs are available so that it doesn't seem like the same old thing. There's new opportunities. As we're talking about in some of our meetings, bringing solar energy to the county and those jobs coming up, finding ways to make things like that seem more appetizing. And then also, as I think of all these hotel projects that keep popping up in Hudson, as an example, finding ways to make community partnerships where we're asking these folks to create or set aside a small number of workforce development housing. I don't think that that's far-fetched, and I think it's something that they should expect when they're coming into the area, that they have to help with things like that. So I'd be interested in working with you and your folks about seeing what some of those possibilities look like.
Yeah, we would be happy to work to partner. But the one thing that when the hotels open in Hudson, the thing I always think is, who do they have people to clean those rooms, right? Because we're not seeing those people. We're not seeing enough people to support a 40-room hotel, right, or something like that. I'm always thinking, who is going to clean this room? Who is going to do the laundry? Who is going to do these things? Because the hotels that we have now are having a difficult time filling positions, and have been, trying to work on training programs and workforce pipelines for the hospitality industry. So whenever something like that happens, this is my whole life, right? So my first thought is always like, who's going to work there? But it just seems to me it would be difficult to find people to fill those positions in county if I were to be opening a hotel, for example.
Agreed.
Supervisor Adams, you got a hand up?
Thank you. So Chris, I have a couple of questions. Is the enrollment at Columbia Green up? Are we seeing some trending toward, I know the enrollment had been impacted by COVID. So are we seeing anything positive with the enrollment there?
I'm sorry, I don't mean, our office is housed at Columbia Green, but I don't know that I'm really in a place to speak to enrollments necessarily. The last I knew, enrollments were down. I don't have any specific numbers, but enrollments were down at Columbia Green and across the SUNY system for all the colleges. Yes.
That's a great segue for my next question is, are we talking to our partners, businesses and the community college about what the impact these numbers are having on, one, sustaining the business we have, and two, attracting new business? I mean, it's great to have this, this data from you, but how are we using that data? How are we putting it to work?
Yeah, I know that our office, I really can only speak for our office, but we're engaging businesses regularly. We have a workforce roundtable that occurred that we put on quarterly to provide businesses with exactly this data. We had one, it was called the demographic drought, and it talked about the shifting demographics nationally. And Mike Tucker and Jeff Friedman from Greene County were gracious enough to come and do a small panel afterwards so we could explore what this demographic shift means for our county specifically, and what we can do to kind of start combating what is really a nationwide workforce crisis. It just happens to hit us especially hard in a small county like that. And then our next, the last one we had was on training opportunities and redeveloping the business training. Many people had kind of abandoned their training programs for these internet web-based software training tools. So we had brought on Access VR and Jim Church from Questar, and then Columbia Green Community College came and we did a nice presentation about developing training and what training options were available in the county, so that businesses, because the quality of the candidate, the skill set of the candidates that businesses are getting at this point is not what it once was. They really need to think about how they're going to train a workforce when the people that they're getting may have a developmental disability or a mental health issue or be recently released from prison. And then the next installment in March is going to be about retention and creating a culture of retention, so that we can kind of take all of this information, all of this data that we've given the businesses, and then kind of help them work through how to put that into action so that we can focus our attention on keeping the solid, well-trained employees that we have and not leaning so heavily on recruitment. As far as partnerships with the college, we also partner with the college. I know the college, the non-credit office at the college has been working really closely with businesses to develop CDL training programs, potentially on, which is something we've missed in Columbia County. I know I've been working with the college to develop an LPN training program so that we can fill some of these gaps in our healthcare industry. So we are always looking for partners. If you have any ideas of businesses that might want to partner or ways that we could help develop workforce pipelines in collaboration with the college or community partners or businesses, we are always open to suggestions. But we really have tried to take the data that we've gathered and see how we can put it to work, and if nothing else, educate businesses about what this situation is and how we can best combat it moving forward. So I hope that answered your question.
Supervisor Cousin?
Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what you were saying about partnerships, also, I forgot to mention when I was speaking before, I think that the Clean Slate New York campaign would be a really good partnership for this. The bill is a ceiling bill, so it's for folks who have served their time, have re-entered the population, and you need 3 years for a misdemeanor, 7 years for a felony, and then your record will be sealed, so that, it's an economic justice bill. So they're trying to help folks be able to re-enter the workforce, but they want careers. They don't just want, the part-time or necessarily hospitality jobs. So I think that there's a big potential because they haven't gotten that far to have solidified partnerships in the community yet of who folks can go to when they're ready, or once the bill is passed and your record is automatically sealed. These are all of the opportunities finally available to you. And I know that there is a large reentry population in Columbia County. So I think that'd be a great partnership for this.
Great, thank you.
Are there any more questions for Chris? All right, there is a resolution to appoint Guy Hughes to the Workforce Development Board. Cindy Tipple has retired and we need to replace her.
So moved. Adams?
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Ron,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, next up, we have Mike Tucker from the CEDC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see Katie Drake from the Workforce Investment Board joined. I don't know, Katie, if you had anything you'd like to add on workforce before I begin.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Katie Drake with the Columbia Green Workforce Board. Our board supports Chris's office at the college. I appreciate the resolution you just passed. That organized labor spot is required for us to be recertified. So that's fabulous that got moved forward. I also just sent forward the changes in our bylaws. We did adjust because we want to be able to continue to offer people to join the meetings virtually. Our last meeting was virtual. We had great attendance. We've been meeting virtually straight along through the pandemic. We have opened up several times to have meetings in person. And we're trying to do that as much as possible because those are when great conversations occur, but people still need to be safe. So we have adjusted our bylaws to allow that we will have a room open at the college, socially distanced. Chris has secured wonderful technology that shows the whole room, and there is clarity in anybody who's speaking for anybody who joins via Zoom. So we adjusted our bylaws so we can continue to meet in person with that option going forward. And those were just the two items that I had that I wanted to make sure that the council was aware of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, with several new supervisors, I thought I would just give a brief overview of Columbia Economic Development. We were organized over 30 years ago by leaders in business, government, education, and the not-for-profit sector. And we are a 501c3, New York not-for-profit membership organization. Our mission, which has been developed through a strategic plan with our board, is to strengthen the tax base in Columbia County through economic development and job creation, to assist businesses to locate and expand within the county, and to promote the county as a premier spot for both business investment and personal opportunity. CEDC partners with a number of organizations throughout the county, but we particularly work with Chris and Katie in connection with workforce education and training. We do have workforce and education as one of our 4 pillars, and we have a board level committee devoted to that activity. Chris and I co-host from time to time a meeting with the representatives of the Columbia County Chamber, Questar 3, his office, the Economic Development Office in Greene County, as well as their chamber and the college, as we partner with Columbia and Greene County on workforce initiatives, because the Workforce Board, the college, Questar, and Workforce New York are all Columbia Green organizations. So we appreciate the work that both Katie and Chris do, and we are working very closely with them, along with the 6 school superintendents here in the county. The Columbia County or CEDC's Board of Directors is elected by our membership. We have 17 voting members, 3 ex officio members, including the chairman of the Board of Supervisors or their designee, the chairman of the Columbia County IDA. Currently, the Board of Supervisors representative, is Supervisor Scalera. The chairman of the IDA is Cappy Piro, and the 3rd ex officio member is the president of the Columbia Green Community College, Dr. Drummer. We have a service agreement with the county that's approved annually by this committee and the full board. The services provided are funded through the county budget. The 2022 contract is included in tonight's agenda for your review, and if recommended to the full board, it will be on their agenda on February 9th. We also serve under individual service agreements as the administrative director of the Columbia County Industrial Development Agency and Capital Resource Corporation, as well as the City of Hudson IDA. We also have an extensive entrepreneurship initiative, one of the other of our 4 pillars. In that context, we have a $3.2 million loan fund comprised of SBA funds and also comprised of county defederalized community block grant money. Martha Lane of our office will give a brief overview of our loan program in a moment. We have been, under our county contract, have been working on projects for the county over the last 4 or 5 years, primarily broadband, housing, infrastructure, as well as the solar projects that have come before the county Board of Supervisors, primarily the under 5 megawatt projects. In addition, we manage the real property aspects of the county's Commerce Park when there are several lots that are still available there. And we offer opportunities for businesses throughout the county. In connection with our work with the Columbia County and Hudson IDAs, this past year, we were involved in over $85 million of projects, 4 projects in the city of Hudson that the IDA closed on, totaling $70 million. The Clock Distillery out in Claverick, $12 million. And there's a proposed project that the IDA received an application for and is still pending approval in Greenport for a 160-unit affordable workforce housing project costing $25 million. In addition, we've worked with at least 25 different development projects throughout the county and in the city of Hudson. During COVID, the Board of Supervisors asked us to coordinate with the Chamber of Commerce, Columbia Comeback, which was an organization that we created with a website and had weekly meetings throughout the early days of the pandemic, providing updates on the extensive repositioning of activities that the state was going through over the period of over 18 months. As part of Columbia Comeback, we also partnered with Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation and distributed over $250,000 of small business grants. And we created a rapid recovery loan program where if you were in business for more than 2 years and had a credit score of 620 and were willing to sign personally, we could get you $15,000 loan with a 5-year term, first 6 months, no payment. And the payments were around $270 a month, but it gave small businesses throughout the county the opportunity to jumpstart their business. Many restaurants, for instance, restocked their shelves as they began to reopen. And it was a very popular program, and Martha can address that. Obviously, we interface with the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council, Empire State Development Corporation, and the Department of Labor and other state agencies. We interface with our federal and state elected officials, and also with county departments such as real property tax, tourism, and other departments of social service, and particularly worked very closely with Commissioner Gibson and Supervisor Adams when she was at Habitat for Humanity, and other supervisors on housing issues and the housing study that was commissioned and completed several years ago. We are considered, the Board of Supervisors, our client. You are about 55% of our funding. And I know that I've worked with many of you and coordinated either projects or activities or responded to questions. And before there are any questions for me, I'll just ask Martha to give a quick overview of our loan program.
Great. Thank you, Mike. I'm getting some feedback here, but hopefully you can all hear me. Yes, my name is Martha Lane. I work very closely with Mike Tucker here at Columbia Economic Development, and I've been running their micro business program since 2000. And that is a three-pronged program. We offer training. That's our annual micro business seminar series. We offer loans, and we offer technical assistance. And our loan program is small. We're not as large as a bank or a traditional lender, but we since 2015, over the past 7 years, we've lent $3.2 million to businesses in Columbia County, and actually a couple in Greene County as well. We are authorized to make SBA loans in Greene County, but the vast majority of our loans are made here in Columbia County. And as Mike mentioned, we have two loan funds. One is the SBA Microloan Fund. We borrow money from the SBA and we re-lend it in the community. We were just approved for another $400,000 loan from the SBA. And these loans are $50,000 or less. They have a payback period of up to 6 years, and the current interest rate is 5%. We also have our own CEDC revolving loan fund, and we make loans from both. Sometimes if somebody is looking for more than $50,000, we'll make a loan from the SBA portfolio and another complementary loan from the CEDC portfolio. And then finally, our technical assistance program has been very successful. Again, since 2015, we've helped approximately 500 people start or expand their small business. And those are just the people we count who work with one of our paid consultants. We apply for a grant every year from the U.S. Small Business Administration to provide technical assistance in Columbia County. And for this year, the amount was very generous. It was $181,000. This is partly the SBA's response to COVID. So we are helping businesses large and small with things like developing a business plan, developing financial projections, providing marketing assistance, QuickBooks training. We try to provide just about anything a small business owner might need to get started or to expand their small business. And in many cases, as Mike mentioned, we were making rapid recovery loans during COVID. That was really a business retention strategy. We made 11 loans. They were $15,000 a piece, a very quick turnaround. And we were able to help several businesses throughout the county just move forward after COVID forced them to close their doors for a period. So let's see, we do have money to lend. I do want to leave you with that. We were awarded recently for $400,000 from the SBA. We hope to close on that loan by the end of the month. And our first drawdown typically is 50% of that amount. So we'll take down $200,000, start making loans. We have 9 loans currently in the pipeline in various stages of readiness. And once we expend the $200,000, then we'll draw down the balance. And our goal is to help as many businesses in the county that need assistance. Are there any questions?
We do focus on startups and in many cases through the SBA program, businesses that would not be eligible at this stage in their progression for bank financing.
Correct. A lot of our referrals come from banks, actually. We receive a lot of referrals from accountants and banks. They know that these individuals aren't ready to apply for a loan. They haven't developed a business plan, or they haven't been through our 20-hour micro business seminar series. And so we try to get those people ready for a loan. And oftentimes we make the initial loan, and our goal is to get them ready so that for the second round, they can apply to a bank.
So are there any, when we go back to our CEDC strategic plan, entrepreneurship and innovation, infrastructure, we've talked about that, shovel-ready sites, broadband, water, sewer, gas, electric, and other needed infrastructure, housing, solar, quality of life and sustainability, and workforce and education. We also work very closely with people who are looking to do projects, and we're almost a concierge to get them in contact with their local, with many of you and with your planning boards and other activities necessary to get a project underway and approved. We also work with businesses and not-for-profits who are participating in the governor's regional economic development competition each year. This year, the projects that we worked on in the county received $6.3 million in awards. Over the last 11 years of this program, over $75 million of state funding has come to the county through projects that we worked on applications for people with and shepherded them through that process. So we're here to serve businesses. We partner with many organizations. We recognize the importance of our manufacturing sector, our agribusiness sector, our service sector, tourism and hospitality. And I think one of the things that Chris Nardone and I have talked about, many of these projects that are on the drawing boards take 12 to 18 to 24 months to complete. And it's really our responsibility at this point to focus in on training programs that will dovetail these new projects coming online so that we will have the employee base for those new businesses and not have those people stolen away from our existing businesses. 70% of our businesses have less than 9 employees, according to the Census Bureau. And we have approximately 2,000 businesses in the county. So when you look at that and you think about the fact that a small business owner doesn't have an HR director, doesn't have a marketing director, doesn't have a training director, it's imperative that the types of services that we provide, that we dovetail with Chris and his office, with Questar and with our Chamber of Commerce and other not-for-profit and social service organizations to truly help everyone in the county find a job and have a decent place to live. And that's our mission and that's our goal. And we work hard at doing that. And we continue to look for your guidance and input, suggestions, and requests to assist businesses in your town or you or your town boards directly. Mr. Chairman, that's kind of the overview. Our financial report is provided on a bi-monthly, every other month at our meetings. And there is a resolution tonight before you with respect to the renewal of our 2022 contract.
As Mike said, there is a resolution to renew the contract between the Board of Supervisors and the CEDC.
I'll move it. Adams.
Who seconded it?
Seconded, Basson.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any questions for Mike or Martha?
Mr. Chairman, we have on the agenda other topics. We are working with the Office of Community Renewal, and several of you may recall that there is a program where the Office of Community Renewal provides grants, direct grants to businesses up to $350,000 for equipment. There is a recapture provision if that business goes out of business or moves the equipment out of state in a 5-year window. And this program is only available to businesses by a municipal applicant. So on several occasions over the last several years, we have come to the Board of Supervisors with respect to submitting an application on behalf of a business. And we do bring those applications to your committee first, and then on your recommendation to the full board. And as part of those projects, the county would enter, if it's awarded, would enter into an agreement with the New York State Office of Community Service, utilizing federal funds to pass down to the local municipality, and then subcontract with CEDC to administer the contract. And then CEDC contracts in a mirror image contract with the project or the developer. You'll recall we did one with the Hudson Valley Creamery. We've done one with Clock Estates Distillery, and we have done one for the city of Hudson. But at the county level, all of the towns have previously participated in this program by going through the county as the municipal entity making the application so that there's unified administration of these grants. The Office of Community Renewal put out an RFP about a month ago to expand this program to provide grants up to $250,000 for farm housing. We had circulated that to a variety of farmers on our mailing list and also through Hudson Valley Agribusiness Development. And we did receive one request for an application from Kleinkill Farm for a $250,000 grant to replace migrant housing units. The Board of Supervisors approved a resolution authorizing that application and a public hearing. There will be a public hearing on February 9th in advance of your board meeting. This program is open to others. The state told us that there's significant funding available on a rolling basis. And we're hoping that we will get some additional farms who might be interested in this program. It's a lot of paperwork, but it is $250,000 up to $250,000 available. So if there are farms that you would like us to follow up with or people that you're aware of that might be interested, let us know.
Mike, when are those grants? When is the grant application deadline?
It's on a rolling basis, Supervisor. So we do think that we need to get in line as soon as possible because at some point at least let's see, 62 minus 5, at least 57 counties might be looking for farm opportunities to upgrade these housing units. And as you know, it's a very important aspect of operations to bring to house people right on the farm and to bring people in during harvest time and other high labor intensive periods. Moving on to broadband, you did contract with us to undertake a broadband study. The results of that study were presented to you last fall. We have identified 1,250 addresses in the county that are not served by broadband, meaning broadband does not go by their house. Broadband in the county is defined as 100, I never get the MPBSs right, but service at 100, not 25, which is the USDA criteria. But in that study, we have 4 providers here in the county, very unique to have 4 individual providers for the size of this population. There are about 26,000 homes, and to get it down to 1,250, what we did is we have been working with the 4 towns that are received a potential award of funding from Congressman Delgado. And there are about 350 homes on that list, which, once those funds are released by the Senate, which everyone anticipates to happen when the omnibus budget bill is passed later next month, those 4 towns will be able to contract with the providers, hopefully to service all of those homes, because the bid or the request for the grant was based on providers providing cost estimates to do the work. That will take us down to about 950. The town of Chatham did have about 99 addresses served by Consolidated underway because Consolidated needed some approval from the PSC, and they made it a requirement that they address these 90 plus addresses. My hope is that each of the 4 providers, Mid-Hudson, Consolidated, GTEL, and Charter or Spectrum, will do a number of properties each month as we wait for the federal funding. There's over $300 million in federal funding that will run through New York State. Governor Hochul and her state of the state identified that she would like to set up a new broadband office. It will still be through Empire State Development, but it'll be reorganized from the Broadband for All office that was set up under the previous administration. We are closely monitoring that activity. We're working with the Public Service Commission, who's currently been commissioned, who currently has commissioned ECC to do a survey, and we will be asking residents of the county to respond to that survey, even though we have this data, which most counties don't have door-to-door data that we shared with the towns and validated in many cases with the provider and the town and residents of the town that they're on the list because they don't have service, or if we have them on the list and they have service, we've taken them off. But we do want to be sure that if the state is collecting data in every county in the throughout the state using this survey, and we don't answer the survey because we think that, or the public thinks that we're all set because we've got a lead in the database. I don't want us to be the state or the county that has 0.5% response where everyone else has 25%, and it appears to the state A that we were being non-compliant, or B that we thought we were in such good shape that we don't need any money. We have also worked. I serve on the Small Business Advisory group for the congressman. And we also have worked with Senator Schumer and Gillibrand's office on tracking how this broadband money is going to flow. And as a member of the governor's Regional Economic Development Council, she ran that council for the last 7 years. And she and her staff have been very responsive to our inquiries about how this is all going to flow. If you don't if you're one of those 1,250 homes, you don't want to hear that the money's not going to really flow till 2023. But we have to stay on top of this because no matter how much money there is, it's going to be difficult to access. When the state controller was here a few weeks ago or a month ago, he identified about 800 homes through some type of a survey they did. I think our data is much better because we actually had a consultant drive the roads and take pictures of the poles. And one thing that is interesting is Charter is taking the position that they can get you 100 speed without fiber, and by using coaxial cable with equipment in their back office. It's technological. From a technology standpoint, it works. So there will be, that's going to be an issue for some people who are expecting fiber where their service is still going to be coax. The other two issues are if you're more than 300 feet from the road, even if it passes by your property, you're going to have to pay the extra distance. We're just about completed a study using GPS of the 1,250 addresses. It looks like more than almost half of those are more than 350 feet or 300 feet from the road. So we have had some discussions with both Senator Jordan and Assemblymember Barrett about what opportunity there will be for the state to help those people who particularly don't have the ability to pay for bringing it further into their property to enable them to get access as well. I know you're all very, very interested in broadband. I think we've been working particularly with, Hillsdale has asked to, get really into door-to-door validation. They found a few addresses we didn't have. They found a number of addresses that we did have that they didn't have. And we look forward to working with the rest of the towns. We've worked with Stuyvesant on this carefully. It's interesting because Supervisor Riley is the chair of the subcommittee on broadband of this committee, and I think there's like 4 addresses in Gallatin. So I think that all occurred before he became the broadband chair, but it is interesting. Finally, we've been working we've been working on housing, and we are in the process of coordinating a housing conference with Zoom. We'll do it virtually at this point, so we don't have to wait. We were thinking that it might be something we could do in person, but we should have that information for you in the next 2 weeks, and the meeting will be held. We'll have representatives from Pattern for Progress, also New York State Office of Housing and Community Renewal, as well as a developer who's retired, who just retired, so he's not interested in marketing us or selling us, but has 40 years of experience. And obviously, the biggest issues we have with respect to housing is the lack of infrastructure, which means I think we need to really start focusing on what infrastructure improvements individual towns might be interested in exploring when you look at some of the other federal stimulus money for infrastructure that's independent of broadband. And, you can't build a more than a 2, 4, or 6 unit multifamily housing building without water, sewer, gas, and electric. They won't allow them on septic or wells. I know there are some that exist either on wells or septic, but the DEC and the County Board of Health's current regulations make it much more difficult. So I do think that housing can only be solved by looking at additional infrastructure, and in that context, we're in a position to be looking at that for you. I think I mentioned we do work on the solar projects, 5 megawatts and under, for your towns to coordinate the county, town, and school district entering into those agreements. And finally, you may recall you gave us a letter of support last fall for a USDA grant application, which we were not successful. They told us that they were looking for something that may be impossible. They wanted us to be able to better define the businesses that we would serve with the grant money, when the grant money only flows 9 or 10 months after you make the application. And so if we had identified a business that needed some type of technical service, and we put them in the grant application and could only use the money for that business, they'd either be out of business or long gone in terms of meeting the need that they were looking for us to help. So we are looking at how we can expand in partnership with the Chamber CED services directly to the towns, whether that involves helping staff a strategic economic plan for the town, if there's an interest on that part, not where we would do it unless there was supervisor or town board guidance or direction or requests. How we can use the data that we now have on businesses resulting from the public PPP 1 and 2 data, where 72% of the businesses in the county applied for PPP. And so how we can get out there and let them know that these grants exist, that we can help them apply for, that we have loan money, we have training money, and we have partnerships throughout the county. So we are, even though we didn't get that grant, we're using some of the ideas in that grant to try to see if we can't come up with an initiative that really takes us on the road in partnership with the Chamber. That concludes my presentation, and Martha and I are here if you have any questions. I think that, I have been working. I did have a call from the Reentry group to meet with them this week at their meeting. I think it's Wednesday or maybe next Wednesday on some housing issues. I have a meeting with Supervisor Adams' successor this week or on Friday for additional discussions. Our housing prices went from $240 median sale price in 2019 to $370. Working people cannot afford that type of jump in housing. And we don't have any apartments to rent because we only have 6 sewer districts in the county. So I think with 28,000 people or 28,000 people in the workforce and 30% of them go out of the county in the morning to work, we are going to have the problems that Chris projects. And I think that what that means is we have to get to the people who have not had the opportunity to get trained or who have not had the opportunity to get involved in a working environment that matches their skill sets, their interests, and their motivation. So I think whether it's working with community groups, working with the social service and office and social service agencies, I do think we have to ensure that, again, economic development is about the quality of life and a decent job for everyone in the county. Thank you.
Ron, I think we lost Mr.
I did see that we've lost Ryan. I was just going to ask if he is there or not, but I will call on Brenda Adams. Had her hand up a few times. Brenda, do you have a question that went unanswered, or did you get stuck?
Thanks. I have an extra. Most of my questions were answered, but I have an extra one from Mike, which is, Mike, do we know anything about the cellular service gap and or the introduction of 5G?
Yes, we had looked at some of the zoning issues around 5G. And also, we have the governor did have a task force on cellular gaps. I mean, we all know that they exist. They exist in areas as densely populated as coming off the bridge, as you come up that hill by Stewart's. And, I do think that that is one of the really frustrating things. I mean, even on the thruway, I mean, if you can't figure out how to have complete cellular service on the thruway, I don't know how you're going to get it in the hills and the valleys and the dales, but it is something that we will update you on. As we were focused on broadband initially, but I see it as an equally important, both from a public safety and from a, I think you all know we were the second, Columbia and Ulster counties were the two highest counties in the country that the Postal Service indicated had the most number of addresses where mail was forwarded during the pandemic. I think, when you look at that and you look at high gas prices, you see why our sales tax is up 30% from 2019, but also online shopping. But, we are working with the chamber to continue to promote buying things from local businesses. But yeah, cell service and 5G is something we can ramp up a little bit this year.
As we're getting closer to getting organized about broadband, the cellular service calls are taking over the broadband calls from constituents.
I guess we got to, every time we solve a problem, we're going to have something to fill the gap. So that keeps us all busy. But thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. As a matter of business, did we complete all the resolutions for Mike? I know that you had a resolution on that.
Yes, and if you have any questions, individual questions on the financials or how finances here work, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, you provide, over 50% of our funding. Several years ago it was even higher, but we do consider the Board of Supervisors as our major client, and happy to answer any questions regarding our budgets or our monthly financial reports.
Yes, Ron, we have both the resolutions that
Okay.
we only had two. Thank you.
Lost track if there was another one in there. Is there any other questions for Mike or anybody from CEDC?
828-4718. No.
Any other questions to come before the Economic Development Committee in general?
Well, I want to look forward to working with all of you, and I'm glad to see it's 5:59. So have a great evening.
All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Simmons.
Do we have a second?
Second, Basson.
I'll say, yeah, okay.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so
Night,
much.
thank you. Thanks, Mike and